planet does she live on? How can we possibly consider a party that fundamentally misunderstands what made America great? One of the things that made America great was that for the first time we had a meritocracy. Used to be in the old world, you had to be royal, you had to be connected to somebody. Only a few people were ever considered for success. We came to our country and we opened it up to everyone. Well, it wasn't perfect at first. We did have to go through a war. We finally figured out to everyone of every color and every creed. Then we finally figured out, yes, women too. But now we have a country where anyone and everyone can succeed based on their merit, based on how hard they work. But you got to understand what made America great to make America great again. But if they think somehow that it's the road that made us great, and they don't understand that there is individual ingenuity, how are we ever going to succeed again in this country? But fortunately, we have such idiotic statements coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that our best recruiter this year is actually the White House. Everything he touches turns to stone. It's been one thing after another. Obamacare, they said, it's going to be great. Everyone will have free insurance and you can keep your doctor if you like your doctor. Not so true. Apparently you can't keep your doctor. You might be able to keep your diet counselor, but if you have cancer and want to go to a major medical center to have your cancer treated, guess what? You don't get to choose anymore. So really, this whole debate is about who gets to make the choices. Do we get to make the choices, or do you want someone in Washington to make the choice? It's about almost every question up there. Do they know better in Washington, or do they know better here? I've been talking a lot about something called economic freedom zones. You want to help Detroit? You want Detroit to grow and be a great and proud city again like it once was? Leave more money in Detroit. It's as simple as that. Don't send it to Washington. I have a plan that would reduce taxes in Detroit by $1.3 billion over 10 years. You want to stimulate Detroit? Leave money in Detroit. But you got to understand that the roads don't create success. Hard work, ingenuity, the American way, low taxes, less regulation. We tax the economy $3 trillion right now. And then once you send the money to Washington, then we punish you again with $2 trillion worth of regulations. You want American jobs to come home? You want to send less jobs overseas? You got to make money welcome. There's $2 trillion worth of American profit that is overseas. Won't come home because it's not welcome here. I called the president on this and I said, work with me. Let's do this in a bipartisan way. Let's bring that money home. $2 trillion. What we do is we say, oh, you have to pay a 35% tax to bring it home after you've already paid a 20% tax in Europe. So how much comes home? Zero. What do? They buy companies over there, or they change the company headquarters from here to there. The president wants to call them unpatriotic. He wants to call them tax cheats and thieves. Well, no, they're acting in their own best interest for their company. But you want them to bring it home? Make the rules better at home. Right. They had a big committee hearing that I'm on, and they had all these people come in. They wanted to blast Apple Computer. And I'm like, Apple Computer is one of the great American success stories. They employ tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Caterpillar, been in business 110 years. And they wanted to chastise them and say what terrible, awful capitalists they were for making money overseas and not bringing it home. I said, you want them to bring it home? You want to know where the root of the problem is? Instead of bringing them in and beating them up, you should put a mirror out there and look in the mirror, because Congress created the tax code and we should scrap the whole damn thing. In Detroit, we got to talk about leaving more money in Detroit. We got to talk about better schools. My kids went to public schools. I went to public schools, but they were pretty good public schools. But not all public schools are created equal. So we have to understand that there are a lot of people who live in the big cities in our country where the schools aren't that good. How do we get better schools? Give everybody the choice to say, I want to go to this school or that school. So if you live in a crummy neighborhood with a crummy school and there's no discipline and the teaching's not good, and you can drive 10 miles over to a better school district, let them do it. Have competition. Competition breeds excellence. If we become that party, if we want to be the party that wins Detroit, We have to be the party that also has compassion and that understands that people live in poverty and that there's a cycle of poverty to drugs to prison. We have to understand that if we're Christians or Judeo-Christian faith or whatever faith we are, that we believe in redemption and compassion. What I would say is that a 19-year-old that makes a mistake with drugs, we don't lock them up for 15 years. Julie Lockwood there was a Rolling Stone article last week. Her name's Julie Lockwood. She's a 31-year-old nurse. She was buying illegally Lortab. Lortab is 95% Tylenol and 5% hydroxycodone, a mild narcotic. It's illegal. Maybe she should be punished. But 15 years in prison? Weldon Angelos, the poor kid, grew up in the city. He was selling $300 worth of marijuana. 55 years in prison. If you want to connect with people who you may not know that well, you may not live in that kind of poverty, have some compassion for their circumstances. But I'm guessing there's somebody in this crowd who's either son, grandson, or grandson's friend has gotten in trouble before. You don't want them in jail either. You want them maybe punished. Let's be the party that has compassion and believes that people should have a second chance. As I've traveled around the country, I think the wind is at our back. I've been to 32 different states. People do want to change. If it's not one thing, it's another. People are frustrated that we do have problems at home and we spend billions of dollars abroad. I introduced an amendment in the Foreign Relations Committee about a month ago. This disappointed me. But it was an amendment to say that no country that persecutes Christians, Jews, or anybody of minority faith, no country that puts people in jail for life or condemns them to death for apostasy, blasphemy, or interfaith marriage. The reason why I introduced this, there's many people in many countries that are actually being put to death for their religious faith. Asia Bibi is a woman who went to drink at a Muslim well in Pakistan. They began stoning her and beating her to death. They beat her with sticks. Finally, the police came and she said, "Thank God the police are here." They didn't arrest her attackers, they arrested her. Her attackers said that she had committed blasphemy. In our country, we call that gossip, and nobody goes to jail because your neighbors don't like you and create gossip. She's been in jail for 5 years. She has little kids at home. Her husband's in hiding. And what do? We send Pakistan billions of your dollars. You think maybe that money would be better spent at home and not sent overseas? But here's the sad thing. I made them vote on it. 2 people voted with me to make the aid contingent on these countries changing their law and not persecuting Christians. They could actually still get the money if they would change their laws. I got only 2 votes and 17 people voted against me. Because Washington is disconnected. I guarantee if we poll this crowd and say, how many of you want to send money to a country that would persecute Christians or burn our flag? Nobody wants that. And yet in Washington, they're so disconnected that the vast majority of them on both sides of the aisle continue to vote for it. There was one thing I agreed with the president when he said, you know what? We need to do some nation building at home. Problem is he never followed through on it. He still continues to be like all the rest of them, send the money overseas. There's a lot of problems here at home. We want jobs to be created at home. Let's bring that money back at home. Let's lower the taxes, rejuvenate the economy. If we do, we will be such a dominant party that we will win hands down. I want to be part of it, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much.